Welcome back, Pod People. My guest today is Jason Trost, the director of Waves of Madness, a really innovative and interesting Lovecraftian horror slash action film that Jason describes as a side-scrolling film. And indeed, there's definitely a lot of large elements of that. The movies that came to my mind when I was watching it are Sin City and the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society's adaptation of The Call of Cthulhu. So welcome to the show, Jason.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So Sin City is definitely the film that I think shares the most in terms of production style with this one, in that it's a black and white film shot on a very small set that is almost entirely green screened and then handled in really creative ways in order to make it appear like you're not trapped on a very small set. So I would love to hear about your inspiration for filming in this manner. I'm assuming one of the main things was budget, but there's also a lot of creative thought put into this. So I'd love to hear more about how that came about.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's really funny because I see this all the time. Everyone's like, they bring up the Sin City reference. I'm like, oh, that's actually fair. When I was making it, I was thinking more of Sky Captain: The World of Tomorrow.
Oh, I don't know much about how that movie was produced, but I like it a lot.
Same thing. It's a green screen black and white movie, and it was like the 30s pulp thing. It just probably wasn't as popular and like in your face as Sin City, so I think that's why it gets lost in the mix. And it was funny, I forgot that was even a reference until my dad saw the movie. He was like, oh, it's just like Sky Captain. I was like, oh, that's cool, actually. That's what I was going for. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. Obviously, like, budget's always a thing, but I like to make movies by myself, and I try to just learn how to do everything. Like, I did all the posts in this movie myself. And so over the last 20 years of making movies, I've just kind of learned how to do each movie. I learn how to do another department's job so I can just kind of become this superhuman, free, low budget machine. But the thing that really inspired the look for this is I like the old, obviously, like, it's obviously side scrolling, so you have the video game element, which is something I always wanted to do. But I always loved the old 1930s classic, like, monster movie, like Universal horror movies and things. And like, they used a lot of, like, it wasn't visual effects, but there were a lot of things like matte paintings and cool things like that, like, I obviously do, but I can try to emulate with what I can do. And like the backgrounds in this movie, they aren't actually computer generated per se, as far as like, I'm not like 3D animating like props and putting them into the background. I went around and just took photos and video plates of things all over the place. Like, I would take a photo of a cool bench and then I'd cut that out and put that in the background, and I would collage all these things together, like kind of like, I would call it a moving Photoshop. And that's how I would put together these backgrounds. And I got that idea because I always loved, one of my favorite video games growing up was Resident Evil on PlayStation 1. And I loved backgrounds. And, it was my understanding that they did that because they had the technical limitations back then, where they couldn't make it look as cool as they wanted. They had the polygons for the little 3D guy walking around the pre-rendered set. And I was always like, I wonder if you could do that with movies. You just make like a pre-rendered background, so to say, with elements. And that was my whole, I guess, artistic approach and experiment with this movie, was to do that. So I built the entire ship, the whole set, before we even shot the movie. So that way, when we're in the, 15-foot space of the studio apartment we shot the movie in, I can look at each panel, which we did basically like a play, and shot it with an 8K camera, so then I can zoom in and out and scroll and track and everything. And it was all separated with like, columns and things to like link it together, so it could all be like a fake one shot. And yeah, it was cool doing it that way, because it's one thing to say you want to make a side scrolling movie, but then when you start writing it out like a movie, and you're like, okay, so this is crazy, because it's like a video game. We have to get from point A to point B. I've got the map of the ship now. So what the hell are they going to do between here and there? I know they have to get over there. And it's really funny because, especially in the editing process too, and the shooting process, you're like, oh crap, but to get back those 3 panels, we have to do 3 panels of action to get there. So it's just like, it's your entire mind around, because one point it's easy because you're like, I always know what the coverage is going to be, because when you're shooting a movie, you're always planning, like, your storyboards, and it's like, okay, there's the close-up where his hand grabs this to like build tension, like there's a close-up on eyes, and there's a close-up on the monster's tentacle coming in, all these things you use, and you have none of that now. So you have to like completely rethink how you make a movie. And it actually goes back to like working on like a play. So luckily
Hmm.
my wife was trained classically, and she's Frances in the film. She's a classically trained like theater actress from back in the day, so she really helped with the play like sort of staging and things, how like, because you have to do these long takes, and just knowing like, yeah, I can like float in and out with the camera and scroll, but that's really all I can do. That's your editing, like you're not cutting away from things. So it was a really fun process, and like I've never seen it before, and that's why I wanted to do it. And I think there's a reason you haven't seen it before, because it's quite tricky, and we kind of, but that was the fun part. It was like having to make up the playbook of how the hell you do this every single day.
Yeah, it was definitely a very constrained movie, both in terms of like what the camera was able to do and in terms of the setting that the characters were in, where the entire thing, almost the entire thing takes place on a single ship, and there's a little bit that takes place on like a boat outside the ship that the guy then gets onto the main ship from. So was that choice of setting because you were so constrained by the production methods, or did you arrive at that idea independently?
Well, yeah, there's a couple reasons for that. I mean, I guess first and foremost, like when I'm writing, before I even get to like the practicality of how I'm going to shoot the thing or how I'm going to make it, I'm like, well, if it's going to be like a Resident Evil movie, because for me, this is like my Resident Evil Lovecraft movie. And I was like, if that's the case, it always takes place in one location, right? Like it's like the police station or the mansion or this, and then you go down to a lab and some other stuff happens. But those things, and they also happen in real time. So I'm like, I need something that's like, you look at like a Metroidvania kind of map of a side-scrolling video game. You're like, okay, we need to be one location. We got a boat that comes up to it. And if it's in real time, we do it like that. And also, like, I wanted this whole thing to be real time, because if you're side-scrolling in a video game, it's rare that like it cuts away and it's like the next day, the next
Hmm.
location. I would take the wind out of it. I thought the cool thing with this sort of adventure was never being able to cut away or look away. And it's like the next like 60 minutes, you're on this ride and you're not getting off. And so it all had to be that sort of thing. And I remember there's actually sometimes like when shooting it, I would have to cut out certain panels that I built, because I was like, oh, that hallway is actually too long and there's just not enough, BS talking we can do. And I think that's a stretch for the audience. We're gonna have to cut out one of these panels. And that was funny. That was really my editing, like in shooting and post, was just cutting out parts of the architecture of the ship to be like, okay, we don't actually need that hallway. That's too much. Let's take it. Let's take that panel out. So yeah, it was really interesting.
Cool. So, yeah, thinking more about the timing of the setting, the time period, it comes across as this sort of retro futuristic, again, like Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, where a lot of elements like the decor and the dress and things like that are of, Gilded Age 1920s sort of vibes. But then there's also present day or future level technology in it. So, how well, why did the decision to combine those things instead of making it purely a period piece or purely set in the future?
Yeah, I just liked the idea of a movie being, timeless, so to speak, to where it exists out of time. It's not in our reality. It could be in any time. There's things from all time, except like, obviously there's not cell phones. But beyond that, like I just thought for me, like world building is one of my favorite parts of movies. And I feel
Hmm.
like what I really like with building a movie is I don't like making movies that exist in our reality. So I
Oh, okay.
thing, because for me, like one of my favorite parts about movies is going to tap out and just like be lost in another world for an hour and a half or 2 hours, whatever it is. So with that, I was like, if it's timeless, then there's no really like, I don't know. I feel like when you set something in a certain time period, especially when you're on a budget, you really start hammering yourself down. Like, wait a second, they didn't have that gun back then. That came out in 1935. This was set in 1933, and those shoes didn't come out until I'm just like, especially in a low budget movie, I'm like, I'm not going to deal with that.
Okay, that makes
Just make
sense.
it stylized and make it my own universe. And I
Yeah.
feel like then, like a lot of the logic issues can go out the window because the movie's a fantasy, it exists in another world.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're creating an entirely fictional world, that means you're no longer bound to verisimilitude with the real world. What sort of difficulties do you encounter when creating an entirely fictional world like that?
I guess just knowing like when to stop and not go too far, because like I feel like the trick is the balance of like, okay, it can be a little bit weird, but not because you don't want that stuff to be too weird, because the weird thing that's going on is obviously the Lovecraftian monsters, you know, and they also have laser guns, you know, like we don't want to go too far. So it's, yeah, it's always just trying to dial it in and make that balance where it's like you're creating another world, but it's not like, it's not Lord of the Rings or like meets Star Wars, you know.
Okay. Yeah. I remember somebody said that like a good science fiction story is allowed one impossible thing in it, and everything else has to be believable. That reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, any other advice for people looking to make their own, like, really not real worlds for their films besides don't take it too far?
Yeah, I mean, just don't take it too far, but also like just have fun. If you like it and you want to see it, just do it. Like my main thing is like when you're making something like this, especially if you're making something low budget, like you can't guarantee yourself an audience. We have no idea what someone else is going to like. So like just make what you want to see. Like my whole purpose with this movie was like it didn't exist and I wanted to see it. So it's like at every turn, every creative decision was like, I want to see that. I'd watch that. So you do it. And like I can go down this whole like list of like, I did this because of this. And there was this like antiquated equation of XYZ. But like at the end of the day, it's really like, what do me and my friends really want to see and really want to do? And just that's kind of where it goes. And I guess at that point, it's just a taste level. And like, do people respond to what I think is cool? Hopefully. And if they don't, like, it's not for you and that's no big deal.
Good advice. And yeah, I strongly agree, especially when working in this sort of low budget or micro budget area, which everybody I interview is, that, yeah, make something that you will like. And that's really the only way to not just immediately burn yourself out on it, I think.
100%, because you're going to be working on this for 2 years or whatever by yourself most of the time, and it's like if you don't love it, you know, it's like if you don't love it, why are you doing it? Like there's plenty of other things you can do with your time than not make money on a small movie for 2 years that objectively most people who see it online are just going to hate it just because it's low budget. So it's like, you know, you better love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, what sort of reactions do you have you been having? Because I think that this is such an unusual film. I would expect it to be divisive, but also I find that horror fans are generally more keen on embracing low budget independent films than a lot of other, genre fans.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely divisive. I mean, I think every low budget movie is, but this one in particular, like I even looked on IMDb and you can see the clean split where there's an even number of 10 ratings than even number of ones. So it's evenly divisive. You get on board with the weirdness that this movie is and you like, I think you love it. And if you don't, it's like 0 out of 10 for you. Like if you're someone who can't grasp the concept, like because there are people out there that like they, if a movie isn't shot like a typical Hollywood movie, it's not real. Why waste my time? I get it. There's those people out there, but then there's other people like myself to where I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we tried something new instead of just made like 50 Marvel movies? That'd be cool. I'm not saying just like story wise, but it's like we have all this technology at our fingertips. Why not use it and try to like shoot movies differently? Like, does everything have to be the same sort of like coverage where it's like wide shot, medium, close, wide shot, medium, over and over? Like, it's very strange. But then it's interesting that if you don't, even the people sometimes that claim they want something different, inherently in your brain, you're so used to seeing something the same way. When it's different, your first knee jerk reaction is like, that's bad because it's wrong in a way. Like it's an interesting dynamic, but the people that like it, they do like it, and I think that's fun. And especially in the horror world, you get a lot more people like you're saying that are very open to that sort of thing. And why horror is one of my favorite genres and always has been is it's probably the only genre where innovation is celebrated.
Hmm.
Like agree where it's like, you know, because if in a horror movie, if it's made for $5 and it's shot in a cell phone, but it's a really cool ride, people will still love it. If you make a drama shot in a cell phone for $5, it's the worst movie you've ever seen, and nobody's ever going to want to see that, you know. Like, so there is something to that, and it's very experimental. They'll accept a lot. You can be progressive, like it can be very accepting. That's why I really enjoy horror.
Yeah. You mentioned, excuse me, sorry. I introduced you as the director. I really should have introduced you with more titles than that because you're also the writer and
It's
the
exhausting.
star.
And the producer and the VFX guy and the sound guy and the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So I imagine a lot of that is just because you enjoy doing it, but also a lot of it is because of restrictions of like the resources that you have access to.
Yeah.
S
I mean, sure, but I mean, yes, there is the obvious like, oh, we don't have money, so obviously you're going to have to do a lot of things yourself. But even if I had a lot of money, I would still want to do a lot of things myself, and that's why I probably can't do the bigger movies because the bureaucracy that's involved with that. Like on a big movie, if you want to like move a C-stand with a light from like the left to the right by a couple feet, like I've got to talk to like 30 different people, and it's going to take about an hour. As opposed to if I'm doing everything myself, I just pick it up and grab it from there and put it over there, and we're shooting. And like, I don't know, I think when I was younger, I thought directing meant you were a filmmaker, like you're making the movie. And that's not
Mm.
really the case on big movies. When you're a director, you're just telling a bunch of people how to make a movie in front of you, which is cool. Like that's a, you know, it's a skill and everything. But that I was like, that's kind of doesn't interest me. I want to make the movie. I want to be hands-on. I want to get there and actually make it. I want to be in the trenches with people. And I feel like when you go past a certain budget, that's no longer what directing is. So I caution, like, I know everyone's like, oh, you directed. I'm like, yeah, technically, but I made it. Like, if I, no, a movie by Jason Trost, because like that's what it is. Like, I get in there and my fingers are in everything because they have to be both financially, but also creatively. And I think a lot of my movies, love or hate them, they have a very consistent tone throughout because of that, because I am in every part of it.
Yeah. Okay, so given how much you enjoy touching every part of it like that, are there any parts of it that you would delegate to somebody else if you know, had the money and an expert that you could hire?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's stuff like obviously recording sound, mixing sound would be awesome to have somebody else do because that's painstaking. I think keying people out in green screen would be awesome to have someone else do. I mean, it generally works pretty fine, but man, there's once in a blue moon you get one of those shots and you're like, that just took all day. That sucked. But now, since this movie's come out, there's this new AI tool and Final Cut to where it's called like a magnetic mask or something. You click on somebody and it like perfectly cuts them out, no matter what their background is. And I'm like, man, that would have saved me like 6 months in post on this movie. That'll be great on the next
Oh my
one.
goodness.
So it's interesting though too, like when you with AI, some of the jobs that I want to delegate and farm out, AI is kind of creating those like busy workflow things. Like I think AI creating art is just bullshit and that's weird. But I think for creators, like independent creators, I think we're going to see some really interesting content because they can do that grunt legwork. And it's not like on my movie, if I have AI, for instance, cut someone on a green screen, I'm not taking away someone's job. I'm just making my life easier and getting the movie done faster. I was never going to have the money to hire anyone anyway. But at least now I can make the movie that I want to make and get it out there, you know? So it's that's going to be interesting what's going on with that in the next few years here.
Yeah, for sure. So you sent me a screener for The Waves of Madness, which thank you.
Yes.
What are your plans with distribution for it?
Well, it's currently out. Umbrella Entertainment here in Australia, they've released it on, I guess what is it, TVOD? It's like the transactional VOD to where it's, I think it's
Yeah.
on Amazon and Google and YouTube and Apple TV and some other services like that spread out across the world. They think they're going to
Okay.
roll out some more of that. They've got a really cool collector's edition Blu-ray that comes with like a 30-page booklet of all the behind the scenes, how we made the movie and
Ooh.
everything. And that comes out on June 4th, I believe. And you can go on their
Cool.
website and it's there for pre-order until they sell out, which I know there's a limited number. They're like numbered slipcase, what have you. There, I don't know if you know anything about the Umbrella Entertainment releases, but they're pretty rad. Like they do a lot of really cool niche Blu-ray releases. If you're a physical media person, like definitely worth checking out. And they ship worldwide. And there is like the hack, like if you're in America, and all their Blu-rays are region free as well, which is great.
I was just wondering about that. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's the next question. And then also they have some deal where it's like if you spend 100 or 150 USD, you get free shipping. And you're like, oh man, that's so much money. I'll never do that. But then you look at some of the stuff they have, and you're like, holy crap, 4K Super Bros, like the original one. So,
Sorry, 4K which?
like Super Mario Bros, like the
Oh,
original live action. They've got. It's not like not what you think, where it's like, oh, it's just a 4K. It's like crazy box set with like all this like wild stuff and different cuts and like they have like really cool stuff.
cool.
And there were two reasons like I wanted to go with them when I was first getting this movie off the ground. One of which they do these really cool physical media, releases, which I love because I love physical media and I'm terrified that it's like dying and we're never going to own anything again. But also, since they're Umbrella and it was like a Resident Evil themed movie, I'm like, the first thing you see is like Umbrella Entertainment presents. I was like, okay, that's a deep cut.
That's great. According to IMDb, this had a box office total of $41.
Oh
Is
yeah.
that
So for whatever reason, because we did a bunch of film festivals back at the end of last year, and one in New Zealand, for some reason, like reported box office from like one of their screenings. I don't know, and that's what that, because I was looking at that too, and I was like, it hasn't even come out yet. Why is there 44? That's weird. That's an odd, arbitrary number. I tracked it down. It's from like a screening of a film festival back in November.
that's
So
funny.
that was quite funny.
I am gonna guess that this movie was a major learning experience for you.
Oh yeah.
How many of these techniques had you already like solidified your skill at versus how much of it were you learning as you went?
Look, I knew how to do most of the things before I went in because I like to at least have a grasp on what I'm doing before I jump in there. But there was things like the scrolling, the actual like digital scrolling, like making the camera do that in post was a bit tricky. And I'm glad that I've finally formulated a formula to make that easier. So I can do a little bit more of a copy and paste job on that if I make sequels. Because I think that was the longest learning curve. It took me like a month or so just to make the camera scroll and move correctly. Like something as simple as that. And like it just, because I guess when you think about it, you're scrolling between these shots. Like let's say you have like 4 panels together and you have to make it scroll and track the people evenly and not be jerky and like go back and forth. And that means you, on your operating system, like I have a pretty beefy computer, but it pushes the limit sometimes. Like you have these 8K panels and you're pushing through like, 6 8K panels in a row back and forth. And it just,
Mm.
it's a lot of like behind the scenes tech wizardry of simplifying things to make my computer be able to do that, which I figured all that out and that's good now, but that was the thing. Also making the monsters, I knew how I wanted to do it, but I'd never actually done it to where I was like, well, I think I can just, because we don't have a lot of money and I want them to be practical and like puppety looking. I was like, but we don't have the money to make giant like puppets. That like takes lots of puppeteers and all the other things. But I'm like, what if we puppet one piece of the monster at a time individually, and then in post I put all of those together so we make this giant monster, but it's like 10 different layers of different puppeted parts, so it all looks like this giant live action monstrosity. So that was a lot of fun to, and I'm glad it worked. Like my idea, I just had an idea and I tried it and it worked in post. Like that was, I was very happy with that because that could have gone wrong very fast.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that it ended up working. I can only imagine how much your computer had to chug along to deal with that large images.
Yeah, I
Um,
think trying to get ready to get into the sequel. And for that, I bought a new computer so I can have 2 computers running at once. The new one's like way beefier with the new chip. And so I was like, what happens in the next one? I'm like, I'm going to need a little bit more horsepower than what the old computer could handle.
so given what you've learned and like the whole process of making the film, what would you do differently if you like could travel back in time and talk to your younger self before making the movie?
Oh, God. I mean, maybe just push the shoot 6 months and wait for the AI like auto cutting out the people in green screen, because that would have saved me 6 months. So I could have just like had a vacation for 6 months instead. No, God, that's a good question. It's hard really because like I don't know, I didn't have any like big disasters in the movie. It was all like really good learning experiences like that I will take with me on every future project I make. So I don't I guess like maybe figure out the films festival run a little bit faster because there's a little bit of a faux pas with that towards the end. I had to like scramble and try to get out the festivals right at the end, the last minute, because I was trying to like figure out where the distributor wanted it to go and this, that, and the other thing. And like, had I just like pulled the trigger on that, it could have been a little bit, but yeah, I mean, still that stuff always happens. So it's like, there's no big craziness. I wish I had like some story where like, you're going to break your ankle if you do this, don't do it. But no, I don't, it went well. Like we shot like 6 hours days. Everyone had a great time. There was like 3 or 4 of us making the movie at any given time. We just had a good time. And like, you're shooting on green screen. So there's like a bathroom. There's air conditioning. Like everything's, you're not out in the middle of nowhere on some, you're not stealing some location and like sweating butts that somebody's going to catch you. Like, I don't know. We kind of dialed it in at this point. It was really kind of relaxing and fun. Felt like we were playing around like in high school.
That's great. So I'm glad that everything turned out really well. Tell me about the festival experience.
Well, the festival experience was great. We premiered at Nightmares Film Festival, which I don't know if you've heard of it. It's in Columbus, Ohio. And they're basically like my favorite film festival. Like, you know, I'm biased because I know some of the guys who run it, but it's so awesome and friendly. Like, there are a lot of film festivals you go to and you can just feel how kind of corporate it is. And like, if you're a smaller movie, they just don't really care that you're there. It's just a numbers game. We're like, we got to fill out our screenings. We really care about like the 5 movies with the famous people, but everyone else can just, you know, whatever. They care about every single movie the same way, and there's just such a great community and audience that comes there. And we won some awards for the movie, which was great. We won best cinematography and best thriller feature, which was really exciting. I always like it when like, oh, we won best cinematography for a movie that, I mean, I get we did shoot everything practically, but not traditionally, so that was cool. And yeah, that was a really good one. We played a festival here in Australia, in Melbourne. We Monster Fest. We played the New Zealand festival where the one screening made $44. We made I think there was a couple other ones. We played some like festivals in Italy and Spain, I think. Then there was one in Sao Paulo, like in Brazil, where we won like the best movie of the feature award, which was super cool. Those guys are great. I wish they could get down there, but I was going to go down there to that one, but I was in the process of getting my Australian citizenship, so I couldn't travel or leave the country. So, which I now have, so thank God. So yeah, that's another thing. I can now travel the world for festivals, but yeah, I mean, it was just, I don't know, film festivals are really cool. And it's cool because at the festival, that's the people that are going to appreciate this sort of movie and understand it. If like, when you try to like throw this movie to like the general public, they're gonna be like, what is this garbage? That's a movie. And it's like, I guess, but to be fair to them, you're right. It's not a real movie. It's something new. It's different. And if you're not on board with that, don't watch it. But if you like, what I always like in the festival run, what I would tell people, I was like, I can't guarantee you'll like the movie, but I can guarantee you've never seen it before. And if that's something that go see it. And yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
So how did you choose those festivals?
Well, I mean, it's a smattering of like, because I've been doing this for so long, it's either like, you know, I can talk to festivals I have relationships with in the past and be like, hey, is this a movie you'd be interested in? I'll send you a screener and submit. Or it's just the blind fire of like, you know, going on Film Freeway and being like, hey, I'm going to submit my movie to your festival. And like, you know, did a few of those. I think it was like 50-50 of that and people I knew. And also with this movie, which was really cool, which I haven't really had before, is when the trailer was released, I had a couple of film festivals come to me and be like, we're really interested. This looks really cool. Can you send us a screener? And a couple of them ended up screening the movie. I think that happened with Soho Horror in London or UK. It's on London, which was really cool. And yeah, it was just, I don't, it's just spreading the word out there of like this weird movie, because it's that thing where it's like, I have no idea how to market this because no one's really made it before. So I can't be like, it's another Blair Witch project. You know, it's like, it's interesting when you're marketing something that hasn't been released before.
Yeah. Is that important to you to be making something that people have never seen before? Or is it just that because of the way that your interests happen to align, the things that you end up wanting to make happen to be things people haven't seen before?
Well, yeah, I think in the Venn diagram, it's like, you know, in the middle to where it's like, I don't know. I feel like, especially when you're a low budget movie, it's like, I think it's kind of foolish to like think you can make something that looks like a real movie because you're going to be compared against the big movies and you're going to be judged on that. So if I shoot something traditionally like a regular movie, like I think I'm shooting myself in the foot, because as much as you can try to make it look like those big movies, like it's an impossible task. You know, you're rolling that boulder up the hill in hell. It's just going to keep coming back down and falling on you. But the other point is like, I feel like there's enough of the same movie being made out there, and like I feel like everyone now, it's like you're in like directors, it's like you just end up being a cover band to where it's like, I'm gonna make my version of this movie, and it's like, which is cool, I get it, but for me, and like at the end of the day, I think it goes back to like when you're making something, you have to love it, and like it's for myself ultimately. It's like, what have I never seen before? Because if I haven't seen it before, at this point, I've made so many movies. I'm like, technically, that means I don't know how to make it. So that's a really interesting creative puzzle for me to figure out how to make this thing I've never seen before. Otherwise, it kind of gets depressing when you try to make something that's been done before and you have no money because you're like, "Ah, man, they had so much more money and they had this and they had that. And how do I fake this and the other thing?" And it's a lot more fun to, chart new ground. And I think that's just always what attracts me more is that puzzle.
Cool. So would you be interested in working on a more traditional film if you had the opportunity, or do you only want to keep doing these really experimental things?
I don't. It really depends. Like, I wouldn't work on a more traditional film if, like, the stars aligned and things were right, such as like they would let me have any creative control whatsoever on it. I think there'd be a conversation, and if they were willing to like actually pay me money, because usually what they do on the bigger movies is they'll cherry pick some indie directors so they can pay them no money and then make a bunch of money off of them. And like with how the Directors Guild works, like you don't even really make money until like your third movie. Like you're
Oh.
making, yeah, like your first movie, they're never going to pay you more than $100,000. That's like DGA standard. And you're like, oh, cool, 100 grand. You're like, that's for 2 years.
Mm.
And then you get taxed. And then you're just like, oh man. So like, then that's like when you're directing a studio movie, it's like, that's a lot of work. You're there for 15 hours a day. Like, you can't do anything else to make money. So it's like, it's quite a money pit. So you got to be ready for that. So I don't know. It's like, there's a lot of stars that would have to align that I think with bureaucracy might not do it. I'm not opposed to it, but I haven't seen it happen. And if it did, that'd be cool. But also it's just, I don't know, it gets tough because the more money, they say more money, more problems. But then like you have to start like it goes from me trying to make something that I love to me having to make something I think other people love. And I just don't,
Mm.
that's tricky because I think it's impossible for anyone to know what other people love. And I think all the movies that we grew up on that inspired us, I don't think they were thinking like, God, what's a movie people are gonna like? RoboCop. That's people RoboCop. I think that's what we're gonna do. It's like this sounds cool. Let's make it. And if you're confident enough in it, if you build it, they will come. So I don't know. It's a very tricky conversation because it's one that coming up, edging on 40, and I guess coming towards a midlife crisis, I ask myself quite a bit. To where like, do I even care anymore about trying to pursue that? Because when I was younger, I definitely did. But then I don't know, I'm kind of just happy doing my own thing at the moment. Like I get to like interact with the fans and the people who come and see these movies in such a more personal and like cool way. When it gets bigger and bigger, you kind of lose that. And like I don't know if I want to lose that kind of camaraderie and just like nicety of like, I can live my life. I can walk down the street. There's no I don't have to like run away from, not to say that that's ever going to happen, like pop up, like I know people where they can't live a normal life because they've gotten too successful. And I don't know if I want that either. So it's and again, I'm rambling, but it's a very complicated question.
Yeah. So given that you're producing your own films, how do you fund them? And
Traditionally,
how much funding did you need for this?
I generally fund almost 100% on Indiegogo and just through my various fan pages of selling my own movies or my own Blu-rays myself or my own, or like do a fundraiser like for my FP movies, like the one, like all the, knockoff Dance, like Bloodsport movies. I have this thing called FP Fest at the end of like pretty much every year, and I get everyone together online and we do a fest, and that's a fundraiser for movies. I just have so many different little fundraisers on this community that I have with my movies that I just keep it that way because at this point I'm pretty much directly making movies for them, and they fund them and I release them to them. So I've kind of got this good ecosystem that it just works out. And like this, like we made this for I think all in about 20,000 USD in the end,
Oh,
which was great.
wow.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I guess if you put in like the year of post production work that I did on it, I guess maybe it's like worth $1 million or something. I have no idea for that at this point. But yeah, so I think that's the reason I can turn them in like that. But then when you release the movie and if it makes money, that's kind of my payment, I suppose. So, I get like whatever the back end is, if there's back end. And then, now I'll probably start funding another one once all this comes out and keep the train going.
Awesome. So you've built up a community around your films. Can you talk a bit about how you maintain that and make them a community rather than just some folks who have seen your movies?
Yeah, I would love to take credit for it, but I have no idea how it happened. At some point, somebody was like, you should start a Facebook fan page and like a Twitter. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. That's like 15 years ago or whatever. And I did that and I'm not thinking much of it. And then people just started coming and then like interacting with me. I was like, oh, this is cool. And I was like, oh, I can put people like what I do. That's cool. And then more people started following me. And I was like, and they start chatting it up with them. And then it just started happening organically. And then now I don't know. And like, then with the movies and you fund the movies, like in the FP movies, you would have, we had perks to where it's like, come out and be one of the people in the background of the movie or like be a little part in the movie. And like, that would start happening and you start getting to know these people personally and then they start becoming your friends and then the movies start coming out at film festivals and the people that funded the movie start coming out, so you start meeting the people on Facebook fan pages or other things. And then it's very interesting because over the years you're like, I've actually met a lot of these people one way or the other. That's what the cool part about the festivals is, and doing them in different places, is I get an opportunity to put faces to names with all these people that have been supporting me for so long. And then it becomes more of just like this community. And like, I don't know, it's I keep being like, when's it gonna go away? But it keeps sticking around, and I'm just so thankful that it is. And like, they're a very cool, like nice group. Whenever I try to like dip my toe out and try to like go out into the rest of the world, it can be a bit of a negative space. But when I'm there, like everyone's super cool and supportive. So oh, I think I'm quite lucky that for some reason people respond to my movies in that way. That this minute little group, and they're very passionate. And thank God they're here because otherwise I wouldn't be.
Yeah, that's really great. Building a community is a lot of work, and it sounds like you've got a particular skill for it. So that's really great.
Yeah, and I'd love to take credit for it, but it just kind of accidentally happened. And I don't know. I think at the end of the day, the secret's probably just to like treat people like they're humans. People like they'll make movies and they treat people like, oh my god, I can't, and like they're just very standoffish and like they're just like everybody's people. Like I really dislike calling people fans even because it's just such a weird disassociation where like you're kind of referring to them as like less than you sort of thing, where it's like I don't think that's the case. Like people are people and they there's fellow film lovers and like they happen to like your stuff, and they're actually probably pretty cool people too. And like since my movies are so weird in particular, chances are if you like them, we probably get along because we have a similar sensibility.
Cool. Yeah, so looking back through your catalog, I asked this earlier about this film in particular, but going through all of your films, is there anything that you would definitely have done really differently if you knew then what you know now?
Oh god, I mean, yeah, I mean all of it really, I guess. But it's a hard, because every time I think about that, I think about what each movie led to, because it's been long enough now where you can see I'm like, oh man, I really shouldn't have made that movie. But then you lead to like the steps of what happened. And it becomes like, wow, I had to make that movie because 5 years later that led to like one of the most important moments of my life, because I made that movie that totally, like, for instance, a lot of times like All Superheroes Must Die, which is above and beyond like my most like hated movie online. Like people, they're just like, it's like throwing lettuce. Like I'll still get hate mail about that movie. And it's like, guys, relax. I was like 22 and I made it for like $20,000 with some friends, like over the course of a week and a half. Like, I don't, just chill out. But superhero fans can get a bit nuts. And so that's like the kind of movie that gave me like PTSD. I'm like, I don't even want to talk about it. I get so much hate about it. Like, and I'd be like, God, I wish I didn't make that movie. But then that movie in a film festival run got me here to Australia, where I met my wife, who was working at the film festival that the movie played at. So it's like, had I not have made that movie that caused me all that pain and suffering, I never would have met my wife, who then became like a co-creator with me on all my projects and made everything as special. Like I probably wouldn't still be doing this now if it wasn't for her. So it's, I don't know. I think I needed to do everything the way I did it to get to where I am today, regardless.
Yeah, I was considering asking you what brought you to Australia. I used to live in Melbourne.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, Melbourne's great. Didn't get my citizenship, so I had to leave when the visa expired,
Oh yeah.
but made it
Did
back
you
a
have
few times.
did you have the year-long working visa, or was it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Did you get
No,
started with that or?
no. I luckily I got met basically. My wife and I met. We were doing 2.5 years long distance. Like I'd come back to Sydney for a month and a half. She'd come to America for a month and a half, and then she really wanted to come to America, but it's like such a hard process to immigrate over there. And then we're like, well, fuck it. I mean, if we just get married, you can get a green card, and you can stay here, and like that's the trajectory of this. We're getting married for the right reason because we just want to stay together. I think that's why you're supposed to get married. So then we got married and got her a green card, and then we stayed in America for a few years, and then we started realizing like, okay, so what's the next like 10 years of our life look like when we start getting older? And we're like, well, it's a lot easier to live when you're older in Australia, so maybe we'll go there. Like we can live for cheaper, we'll have free healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. Let's go back to
Cheaper,
Australia.
really. I
And
mean,
then
leaving aside healthcare, the
yeah. Well, it's because if you're making American dollars, the Australian dollar is worth like
oh
64 cents of an American dollar. So that's
yeah,
another
yeah.
one. People are like, how do you live there? I'm like, well, I'm kind of making double money. So
All right, that makes
that's
sense.
even with that, I can live like a modest lifestyle here, but like I'm happy with it. But yeah, so with that, because we were married, that meant I could get the permanent residence visa in, your PR here in Australia. And then in order to get your citizenship, you have to live in Australia for 4 years, and you have to stay for like a year without leaving, period. And very much when we first moved over here at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, which we'd planned before the pandemic happened. That was a whole thing. I was like, when the hell am I going to stay for a year? Like I have family, I have friends. There's no way I'm ever going to stay in the country for a year without leaving. That's crazy. Pandemic happened. They closed down the borders for 2 years. I couldn't leave. And I was like, well, I guess we checked that box. And then I just waited my 4 years out here. And then actually waited my 5 years. And then I just got, the day before yesterday, actually, I just had my ceremony where I'm now officially an Australian citizen. So I have
Well,
dual citizenship.
congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
What have you noticed different about the Australian film industry and the people who love it versus in America?
God, I mean, that's interesting because I'm not really a part of the Australian film industry here. I mean, I work with Umbrella, but I'm not really, I don't know, I'm not cool enough to be in the cliques yet. Maybe if I'm Australian now, like they are very much like we're Australians, get out of here, immigrant, like foreigner, and I get it.
Mm.
So, but maybe now that I'm an Australian, they'll let me in. But yeah, and I get it because they don't want people because they've got a cool thing going on here, so they want people, want some Hollywood guy on here and taking their stuff, which it seems like they've got a really cool thing going on. Like, I'd like to be a part of it. We'll see. See if they'll let me in now that I'm making Australian movies.
Yeah, that's interesting that you found Australian filmmakers not to be especially welcoming because, like, I wasn't doing anything with film back when I lived in Australia, so I didn't meet anybody specifically through that. But all the Australians that I did meet seemed very welcoming.
Well, yes. Okay.
But
Let me.
maybe,
Australian filmmakers themselves are very welcoming. I'm talking about the bureaucracy people, as far as like the producers and the people that give you grants to like Screen Australia money and things like that. And
ah,
company like production companies and things. That's what I'm talking about. Now the filmmakers themselves are lovely. They're amazing. Like when I meat them at like film festivals and stuff, they're great. But like
okay,
yeah,
now it makes sense.
yes. The actual Australian, the people are great. But the brass, they're a little like I remember I came here and I was like, oh cool, I've got some acting credits. Maybe I'll try to get an acting agent like during the pandemic. Cause like, like in the pandemic, everyone's like, what the hell do I do? I'm like when we're on lockdown for 6 months, I'm like, I'll put together a reel. I'm sure they got a bunch of acting credits. I can get, they need someone with an American accent here. I've got a PR. Like this would be great. I count for their tax credit. This will be a killer. I went out to like 50 different agencies and they all gave me the same blanket thing, like basically like seats taken, buses full. Nice try, American. And I was like, holy crap. Wouldn't even like meet with me. It's insane.
Wow.
And then like you can tell with your reel, because I have my reel on Vimeo, and you can tell like if someone actually watches it. And every email will be like, great reel. Unfortunately, our numbers are full. Goodbye.
I I will say though that Vimeo has I don't think that that is completely accurate because I screened a short for a film festival and like I watched it and I rejected it. And then the director of it contacted me afterwards and was like, I saw that my views didn't go up. And I'm like, I did watch it. So,
Yeah.
you know, And I was able to describe it to the director to convince him that I did in fact watch it.
Oh my
That
god. But that is such a wanky thing to do though. Like so I don't know, like some people can get pretty crazy. Like that's like, you didn't watch my movie. It's like, dude, I don't know.
yeah,
It's like
I mean, I was more this guy was like a student who was submitting things to the festivals for the first time and
okay,
didn't know how anything worked, so I was very
okay.
forgiving in that regard.
I it's when you get like the I guess the more like seasoned filmmakers doing that stuff. That's what I'm used to. I'm just like, dude, this is insane. Let it go. Sometimes people don't like your movie. It's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the only film festival rejection that I actually was like, "What? Come on." When I got it was, one of my shorts got rejected by Trauma Dance, the film festival that is put on by Trauma/fans of Trauma, and my that short has a quote from Lloyd Kaufman on it, calling it a must see, that, like, it's right there on the poster.
Oh man,
Um
that's yeah. Look, you get those. You get those a lot. Like I don't know. Like I've gotten those before to where you're like, this is a slam dunk, and then you get like some really weird political thing. You're like, oh, this is personal. I don't know what this is, but it is absolutely not the excuse
Mm.
you made in that email. Like it was like with this. I
Oh,
remember this movie. Like Fantastic Fest turned it down, and I've played there before several times. I'm like, they sell my movie, the FP, in their lobby. I've like won awards there. I've been like on the jury in their horror panel. Like I'm part of it. And I just we get this response after a month of them like just like hemming and hawing about it. And then they announce that they're going to do a survival horror section of video games at their festival and celebrate that. I'm like, okay, so this is a slam dunk, right? Like I'm an alumni. I have a side scrolling movie. I'm checking all of your boxes. And they're like, yeah, unfortunately the runtime's an issue. Bye. And that was it. And I was like, and I looked it up. I did some sleuthing. I was like, they were screening 10 movies that were shorter than mine. And I was like, okay, guys,
hmm.
it's personal.
Yeah, it, uh, I mean, it might be. It still could be other things because, like, I
No,
know.
look, things I can't say on here, I absolutely know it's personal.
Oh, okay, all right then. Yeah, I know that like a lot of aspects of film festivals and stuff like that didn't make any sense to me until I did it myself, and then I was like, oh, okay, now I understand why. Like the fact that this movie's 35 minutes and this movie's 40 minutes, I can fit this 4 minute short that I really like if I pick the first one,
Mhm.
uh, and things like that. So,
Oh yeah,
but
no,
if
I
you,
totally understand all that. That logistical thing, like that's fine. But there's definitely yeah, if you do a simple Google, there was a scandal that they swept under the rug that I was, I guess, involved with.
ooh,
Not in I wasn't involved in a negative way. I guess I just kind of blew a whistle a little bit, and then they buried that under the rug profusely. But if you Google it, I'm sure you can find it. It's about their fantastic feuds if you're really looking.
ah. Yeah, well, you've certainly piqued my curiosity.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to go for it, because I think, and when you read that article, you'll be like, "This is terrible that they buried this."
Hmm. What sort of preparation and skill acquisition and stuff do you think is important that's different for somebody who's trying to get into being a complete filmmaker the way that you are aiming for versus someone who's aiming for a more traditional director who tells a bunch of other people what to do? Obviously, like there's a whole lot of different skill sets, but like where would you suggest, starting?
Well, okay, yeah, because I think this is the conversation of like with filmmaking. It's like, are you an architect or are you a contractor? Like a contract, the studio gives you a blueprint, you produce the contract exactly, or the blueprint exactly as they want, and that's cool. That's a skill. That's a job. And otherwise you're an architect, which is you want to build your own house, you want to build your own plans, you want to just be creative and do whatever you want. That's a totally different path. So if you want to be more of the contractor type, like you're saying, I think definitely it's like go to film school, get all of your sort of your contacts there because you're going to build a base of people. I know so many people that have gotten very successful through you go to film festival or film schools, you build like your connections with all your friends. A lot of them get successful, you get successful, everyone starts building up to the ranks, and you have like this 10-year odyssey of everyone getting to that point of like, oh yeah, in film school I had this guy, he was a great DP, let's bring him on, and it just kind of like builds itself like that. And then start and go be like a PA on movies and build yourself up, because on movies, if you're competent, you can climb the ranks corporately quite quickly as like a PA or things like that, you know. So it's like, go do that stuff. If you want to do something more like I'm doing, it's like just grab your cell phone or whatever camera you have and get out there and start making things, because you're not going to learn how to do it yourself until you start doing it yourself. And it's like, just start doing it and be kind to yourself, because it will suck at first, but it's not about whether it sucks or not. It's about learning how to do things the way you like it, and just like learning the programs. Like, there's all these tutorials out there which are actually pretty amazing on like YouTube for every different sort of software, anything you need. But the best way to learn how to use programs and like learn how to do all this stuff is just to do it. Like, if you go out and shoot something and you're like, I want to make a short where there's a dinosaur in the background. How am I going to do that? I'm going to shoot the plate of me running around. I'm going to go back and put it in my computer, and we're going to see how we do it. And then go to YouTube and be like, how to put dinosaur in the background, and then go through and do that. And then you'll learn how to do it by the end of it. Whether it's good or not is, you know, that doesn't matter, but you're learning the skill. But I always think it's better to learn by doing, because I think it can be a form of procrastination to just keep like watching videos, reading books, and but never actually putting any of that information to use. It's like, get out there, start putting it to use, start submitting to
Hmm.
film festivals, like, and like, yeah, like, and another thing, if you're submitting blindly to film festivals at first with your little shorts or what have you, don't go submitting to the big ones. Like, the big ones, they're not even going to watch your festival. They're just taking your submission money. Like that, and that's just how it is, because they can't. They're like, they're bought and paid for by so many things. Like, and the movies that you think are little, it's because they know somebody, you know, somebody has a connection through somebody, but you don't know anybody yet because you're the person just starting out. So when you go to your film freeway or whatever, go find like the really cool niche festivals and hit them, target them, because they're actually going to watch and appreciate your movies. And that's how you start building up a rapport, because then you're going to go to those film festivals, which it's important to go to the film festivals, I think always, but especially when you're building up, because that's when you start meeting people, not just like the heads of film festivals, but other filmmakers. And then they're like, oh, I know so-and-so at this festival. I think your movie would be great there. Then you meet that person. Then your Rolodex starts building up and building up. So it's like, you just kind of have to be cool with just putting yourself out there, but don't put yourself out there in a way that you're doomed to fail. Like, don't swing, like, don't be like, this short's going to win an Oscar and it's going to go to Cannes. Like, it's not. Start small and maybe you'll get to Cannes someday, but like, just be okay with starting small and building your community.
Yeah, yeah, that all sounds like really good advice to me. And if anyone listening has made a horror or horror comedy short or feature that they're interested in getting in front of the eyes at a small festival like you were just describing, Slime Fest is the one that I organize. You can guess the theme probably from the name of it, but I'm welcome to any. It's open to any sort of um, horror or horror comedy films.
When is Slime Fest? I'm curious.
It's in July.
July.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
So
I purposefully did it at a different time of year than most horror film festivals are,
a good
because
call.
I mean I watch horror stuff year round.
It's
The
good
summer can be
because
scary too.
the thing that can be hard with horror film festivals again, and then okay, so this is another thing. If you're out there and you're someone, you're going to make like your horror feature film, and you want to have like a festival run with it, I really suggest planning your start date to align with when you think you're going to finish it. Make sure you finish your movie around July, because then you can start submitting, because all the horror festivals generally will start ramping up. That's like when the submissions are like starting to end and close for like the October and November and December horror festivals, because that's like horror festival season. It's great that you have one in July, which is awesome, because there's so many times when I've made a movie and I'm like, God, I made this at the wrong time. Now I have to wait around for 6 months before it can even play. And that's something to think about that you don't really think about ahead of time. But if you know that you're going to have your movie done by a certain time, you want to, if you can get it done by like June or July instead of August or September, you're going to open yourself up to a lot more festivals. But yeah, so
Yeah, I'm going to be
so,
taking the first. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna, I just have so many questions about Slime Fest, but please continue.
Um, I was just gonna say I'm working on my first feature right now, and by working on right now, I mean not doing anything about it this month, but taking 2 weeks off in July to hopefully finish the edit.
Awesome.
Aiming to have it premiere at my local drive-in movie theater in October.
That is so cool. I mean,
Thank
that's what
you.
it's all about. Like, I don't know, like I've done screenings and festivals at like some of the biggest festivals in the world and some of the smallest, and just like you're talking, just like a drive-in screening. Like for me, those small screenings are always the most fun because everyone there appreciates it. They're there for the right reasons. They want to have fun. They love movies. You get so much more out of that as a creator. Like when you go to the big festivals and you screen your movie and you realize half the audience is like on their phone because they're writing the review for how they don't like your movie whilst they're watching it, and you're like, you're not even watching the movie,
Oh
you're on your phone.
no.
Yeah, and then like you get out, and then you're like, oh wow, the vibe was really cool. Like worst movie ever. And you're like, you guys didn't even watch the movie, and like this, they didn't explain this, they didn't explain that, and you're like, well, we did. You were just on your phone. And that, but yeah, it's like it's just not the same. Like those little screenings, like I I love that stuff. Like one of my favorite screenings was like with FP2. We did like a mom and pop style premiere in the one bar in the actual town of Fraser Park, and we set up a projection screen in the bar and watched it there. Like that was one of my favorite screenings ever, just because it was so fun. Like I had a great time. Like they're just there to have fun and watch a movie. It's not like they don't have their letterbox out and ready with their tagline, like their clickbait headline ready to go on the review. It's like that's not a part of it. It's just we're just here to be entertained.
Yeah, there's the film festival that I just found on Film Freeway when I was looking for places to submit one of my shorts that I thought was just the coolest idea. It's called Fright Lake Film Festival, and it's at least the year that I submitted, it was like literally on a lake where they had like an inflatable screen that they projected onto.
Wow,
And yeah, and I was just like, I've never even heard of anybody doing that. And to do that and turn it into a film festival, that's incredible.
how cool is that? Like I don't know. That's the thing with experiences where it's like I. That's what I miss. Like that's what going to a movie theater used to feel like. It used to be like an event, an experience. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, and that's again like don't and like dinner. Like I don't care about that. Like give me experience. Give me an inflatable screening on a lake. You know.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really love about going to the drive-in because it's always a double feature and they have like actual food for not insane prices and you
Yeah.
just stand around with the other people before the movie begins. It's great.
Yeah. It's lost the community vibe at like your local like your mall cineplex or what have you. It doesn't have the same people. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I I love the like theaters and screenings and all that so much. They're so much fun.
Are drive-ins a thing or were drive-ins ever a thing in Australia?
Look, I think they might have been. I've heard there is one somewhere. I just haven't been to it yet because it's like a little bit a ways out of town. But what they have here, which is really cool, they do some of the inflatable screenings like you're doing in our big like nature parks, which are like our like versions,
Oh.
uh, Central Park in New York or something. And we do have a couple of those, and I've been to some of those that are really fun. You sit on like big bean bags outside, and like when it gets dark, like the movie plays, it's really fun.
That's great. Yeah, I remember that reminds me of watching sporting events in Federation Square in Melbourne, where they've got the giant screen that they put all like the cricket and rugby and stuff on.
Oh yeah, they love their cricket and rugby here. AFL and AFL League, and we've got State of Origin coming up, where they AFL against each other from the different states, and
Do
it gets
people go insane about horse racing in Sydney? Because they absolutely do
they do.
in Melbourne.
Well, they do because like there's the Melbourne Cup, obviously, and everyone was hyping
Yes.
it up to be like, you guys see the Melbourne Cup, and it's like, okay, cool, this sounds nuts. And they're like, we're gonna go to the pub, we're gonna watch, it's gonna be a huge thing. Get there, we get our beer, sit down, it starts, it's over in like 5 minutes. That's it. That's the Melbourne Cup, and like people come out from all over. It's like it's like the Super Bowl, but it's 5 minutes long. And you're like, that's it. I barely even got into my beer. What's going on here?
That's great. Yeah, no, I mean, as far as I can tell, the Melbourne Cup is an excuse for women to wear fascinators and for everyone to get completely plastered.
Well, I mean, I think that's the excuse for everything in Australia. It's like just another excuse to get out there and slam some pints.
Yeah.
Like slamming pint culture here, like Anzac Day and Australia
Oh
Day.
God.
Anzac Day with their two up. Like that's just. Have you played two up?
I don't drink personally.
Okay,
Um,
that's probably why. So on Anzac Day, they do two up where it's like gambling's legal in every pub in Australia, and they
yeah.
play this game two up where it's essentially just heads or tails. guy just throws it
Okay.
in the air, and you like basically say which one you want, and then like everyone throws their money in the air for some, and then people just take money from each other if someone's money. It's hard to understand, but everyone seems to get it, and like there's just
Yeah.
wads of cash everywhere, and people drinking, and it's insane.
Yeah. I love a lot of things about Australian culture, and I'm pretty fine with the amount of drinking that there is there. The one thing that really I think their culture would benefit to change is the degree to which they have normalized gambling.
Yes, and then they like it's like an addiction here, and they actually like
Oh yeah.
they'll they'll be like gambling commercials like everywhere, and they'll be like, gambling's a problem, call the gambling help hotline. It's like, then don't even show the commercial. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
yeah, it's a huge problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Seeing the pokies every time we would go
VIP
and
lounges in every pub with the pokies, which I guess if people don't know what those are, it's like, digital slot machines, I guess,
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
They love those here, man. I don't know. I think I did it once, and I was like, well, that was dumb.
I know that I get addicted to stuff easily, so I didn't even try it because just seems like a waste of money.
Well, yeah, especially, but like you've had a couple pints, it's like, oh yeah, I'll do another one. You're with the mates, everyone's it. I've seen it go pretty bad, and
Yeah.
like, and because of that too, like I have some friends here that are really into buck hunter. Like one of them, Will, he has won like the top buck hunter player in the world at the championship, and he's always like one of the highest rated. But it's crazy, like they'll just go in there and play that game, which is essentially gambling, because in order to get yourself on the leaderboards, you have to pay so much money to play over and over and over again to get your score to that level. It's a wild thing to see here, because they get crazy on it.
Jeez. Somebody make a horror movie about that.
I know. That's why.
So
Sorry,
yeah, oh no, yeah.
we can go down a rabbit hole if we start talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you spent 2 years working on The Waves of Madness. It came out in 2024. Are you currently working on another film?
Yeah, because I guess like it was like developing Waves of Madness, building all the sets, figuring out how to like shoot it, doing in post. Like I could definitely carve that down another one, but I was done with that movie back in like I guess the end of July, and then we did the film festival run end of last year, beginning of this year, and then now it's finally coming out everywhere, which is great. And then right now I'm working on something called Afar, which is an interactive horror movie. And I have a demo up on YouTube that you can play, where it's basically just a choose your own adventure little horror movie experiment thing I'm doing. It's like a weird little VHS choose your own adventure horror. I've got an Indiegogo up right now for that. That's a pre-order. And that's just something I was making because I'm like, I need to do something creative and fun whilst I wait to make Waves of Madness 2, essentially, which is not called that. It's called The Castellan with Blood if you watch the end of the movie. But I've been waiting to make that. I wrote the movie back in like November. So I've been wanting to do that, but I knew I couldn't focus on it entirely while I was doing press and some other things for Waves. So I've just kind of been like biding my time with this little experimental project. That's fun. If you want to check it out, do. If you don't, that's fine. But yeah, I'm hoping in July to finish up with that so then I can get to work on Waves of Madness 2, because I want that to be my little side-scrolling pulp action horror franchise, kind of like Resident Evil. But I guess my pitch for it would be like, imagine if the Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser, if every movie, instead of going after the mummy, just went after a different monster. And that's kind
Hmm.
of the idea with the LeGrasse character in The Waves of Madness, is each movie will go after a different, old pulp famous horror monster, but with our spin on it.
Yeah, you mentioned wanting being inspired by the old Universal monster movies, and that is what that immediately made me think of. Like, oh, it's a franchise. Each one is focusing on a different
Which I
monster.
love that, like, and I wish more franchises would do it, where it's not like we're not trying to do the same movie again. It's just like we're following the characters on another adventure. And that's kind of the idea. And yeah, they'll be side scrolling. We'll keep notching up what we can do in the side scrolling. And I think that'd be fun. I'll keep making those until people stop watching them if I can.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see after, a few more iterations and new AI tools and stuff being
Yeah.
invented, how much your abilities change.
Yeah, same here. Like it's a new frontier. I'm excited to get into it.
So, of all the different technologies that you used in the production of this, you did not use much in the way of CGI. You did photo bashes of real things. You did puppets and live actors and stuff like that, but no CGI,
No,
or very
like,
little.
very little. Like there's a couple like little CGI like plates of like magical mist or things like that here and there, but
Yeah,
like
I was gonna say a few particle effects and
yeah,
stuff,
like
but
little particle effect, nothing big because like I don't really know how to do CGI, so that's kind of and it's one of those things where I'm like, I'd rather do it practical because I come from a practical effects background because my dad did practical effects and that's kind of what got me into movies because growing up on set with him. And I'm just like, you can take the practical element and merge it with what we have visually and put it together. Like, so it's technically, yes, it is visual effects and I'm doing it on the computer, but the computer isn't generating these. I'm not like, because I get a
right.
lot of people asking me like, oh, did you do that in Unreal? And I was like, on who? I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Like,
Yeah,
no,
that's why I specified CGI, which is
yeah,
how.
yeah, no, 100% because I get a lot of that. And I'm like, I see where you're coming from, but it didn't, I made it on a computer, but the computer did not generate it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's
It's kind of
cool. It makes me
interesting.
wonder what someone coming from like with someone with similar ideas but coming from a different background
Mhm.
might make.
Oh yeah, I'm
So
sure you had a big VFX background, like an Unreal or something. You probably do something insane because all that stuff is wild. But my brain just doesn't think that way, and I kind of like that no one else does it the way I'm doing it right now, so I can kind of just carve my own little trajectory here.
yeah. So you really enjoy experimenting with like the form of the movies, but the structure was pretty standard and straightforward. It was like, beginning, middle, and end, uh, three
Absolutely.
act, straightforward, rescue the person, blow up the thing. Um, is structure something that you want to try to be relatively consistent and normal, for lack of a better word, with, or is that also something you're interested in experimenting with?
Look, I'm interested in exploring structure from time to time, but I feel like when you're doing something so wild and outside of the box like this, you kind of have to give people something to hold on to that's normal. So it's like the world is crazy, the style of it we're doing is crazy, but if the story is a normal structure you're used to, even if the style and everything's too much, you can still follow along. Which is like this is the only movie I've probably made where like my parents or my wife's parents will actually watch and be like, oh, this is cool. Like all their friends are watching it in their 60s, like, oh, this is a really cool movie. This is neat. And it's like they don't understand, like, oh yeah, side scrolling, what does that mean? But like they totally followed along because the story structure is there and everything. So I'm also a big sucker for story structure. Like I love that. Like it worked for 2000 years for a reason. Like I don't know, the 3 act structure is pretty great. Like I don't think we need 5 acts or whatever they're doing now, like and all that stuff. And yeah, it's just it's easy to, and I think what my thing with that was, I remember like with Avatar was really something that motivated me with that because I'm like, the technology on display here is insane, but the story is such a familiar, easy story to follow along that you're still invested because you kind of where you are. You're not lost. If you're lost visually and story wise, I think it's a failure and it's too much to ask the audience. And also for me, if I'm doing something that crazy, and I've got like a nice little through line of a blueprint of like this is where the story goes. It helps keep me on track as well. So
All right. What other filmmakers are you paying attention to right now who are also experimenting with the visuals in sort of similar ways to what you're doing?
God, I don't know if anyone's really doing what I'm doing per se with like the way I do
Well,
the visual.
all right, all right. Not necessarily like what you're doing, but like,
Yeah,
but other people who are experimenting with the visuals in ways that you think are fun.
yeah. I mean, obviously, like, and it's I know I should be saying like indie people, but I really love what James Cameron's doing with the Avatar movies. Like, because say what you will about him, what he's doing is insane. There, I like the and again, it's all big budget things, which are annoying, but I like the screen technology as opposed to green screen in the background where they have like the big LED screens where you can put the Unreal stuff and the actors can actually like react and be lit by the cool backgrounds. That's neat. But filmmakers, like I'm trying to think of a good answer to your question and not just like big budget, cool stuff, cool toys.
Well, Well, I'll
I
nominate
had
one. That
okay, please do help me out here.
Matthew Warren directed Delicate Arch, and I interviewed him recently. And one of the main things in that movie is that like the main characters do mushrooms, and so the visuals of the film change a whole lot, and they do some really fun playing with like the edges of perception and the boundaries of reality, which um how do the characters who are in this movie perceive themselves, and
Oh wow,
uh
that's
possibly
really
also perceive the aspects, the fact that they're in a movie.
I
um
gotta hold on. I gotta write that down. That sounds cool. What was that called again?
it's called Delicate Arch,
Delicate art.
directed and written by Matthew Warren.
Matthew. Thanks for that rec. No, because I'm always like struggling because you just get lost like on streaming now with stuff, and like it's just such a mountain of bullshit. Like there's still really cool stuff out there, but like you have to just like dig through the horde of just content to actually find the movies. So I always like getting recommendations of these cool things that I've missed out on, because like I don't know, I've kind of tapped out on watching movies, to be honest. Like I'll go, like I got a drawer recently where I'm like, I'm just kind of like scared streaming is going to like completely take over and physical media is going to die. All of our favorite movies are just going to disappear and go into the vault. So I went kind of nuts last
Mm.
year and got like 500 4K Blu-rays of like my favorite movies from the past. So I'll generally just open the drawer and watch something old, because I'll just like try something new, and then I get like 10, you get something that's like 90% Rotten Tomatoes, a masterpiece, and like I can barely get 10 minutes in before I like bored and just gonna turn it off, because I'm like, whatever. It's like, oh, what a watered down version of Die Hard. I'm actually gonna turn this off and just turn on Die Hard instead.
Ah,
And then like, so yeah, it's nice to like know and like see some of these cool things. Like I think last year one of my favorite movies was actually that's good. Yeah, two of my favorite movies last year that I think have a cool visual style. Finally, it's clicking in. One of which was Late Night with the Devil. I really enjoyed, because I just like that whole
yes.
like, and I love that they actually shot it like a
Another
7.
Australian film.
Yep. And I thought that was just totally awesome. I was there for that. It was just really cool. They stuck with the vibe the whole time, and I really liked that. I thought it was really effective. And again, playing with that thing where it's like they're anyway. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but then also, have you seen? Is it? Am I getting this right? Hundreds of beavers, or is it thousands of beavers? It's hundreds of beavers, right?
Oh, yeah, Hundreds of Beavers. Yes, I've seen
Thank you.
that.
That was definitely one of my favorites of last year, and visually that was insane. Just like black and white, crazy Looney Tunes video game epic like that. I cannot even imagine what they had to go through to get that movie made and funded, with how weird of a concept that was and so amazing. Like it's just a silent film Looney Tunes episode. You're like, that was awesome. And they do so many crazy visual things in that movie. Like that movie was such a breath of fresh air. I was like blown away the entire time.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the most creative movies I've seen in a while. Um, I'm really lucky in terms of watching a bunch of indie films, because I basically only watch new movies at the drive-in, and the rest of the time I'm finding either a screener that somebody sent me, or finding something on Tubi or something like that, where there's just
Tubi is awesome.
so many independent films.
Yeah, and you're also you're cheating because you have a film festival, so you get like sent the good stuff and the weird
That
stuff. Just
yes, I have like 35
that's why I'm
hours
like,
worth of
maybe I
stuff
just
to
need
look through in June.
maybe I just need to start a film festival so I can see some of the cool weird stuff that's being made out there and share it with me.
Yeah,
Make my own streaming service that
yeah,
way. From
it'll yeah, in my experience, you'll get like um a few things that are really right up your alley, a few more things that are kind of tangentially related, and then a few things that people are just spamming to completely inappropriate film festivals. Like,
oh yeah,
I mean, no, Slime Fest is not the right venue for your romantic drama. Sorry.
no, no, yeah, an immigration tale of a Canadian becoming an American. Like, yeah, no, it's not the place unless there's some tentacles.
Like, does the Canadian stab people during the movie? Because if
Does the
so, we
Canadian
can work with it.
does the Canadian turn into a moose at night? Like, we need something.
Yeah. So, given all of the, variety of cultures and technologies and stuff that we've been talking about, I'm really curious, where do you see the future of independent film going?
Oh wow. Gosh, I hope it keeps going. Like that's the just from my own experience. Like they are making it harder and harder. I guess it's a double-edged sort of knife. Like they're making it harder to get out there with your independent movie, and the more movies get made, the more it gets buried, and like the bigger things and the algorithms and all this stuff is just kind of working against you. But at the same time, every day a new avenue comes out for you to explore to get your movies out there. So I'm hoping all that the dust kind of clears on that and independent stuff can be seen more regularly again. Like things like Tubi are amazing because they'll actually show these weird independent movies and stuff like that. I think that's really positive. I think and hope that like again, not hope's the wrong word because I don't want movie theaters to die. I just want them to change. I would like it to not just be like you go to a movie theater and see giant movies. Like there should be independent theater chains where it's like we don't play big budget movies, we play weird indie stuff. And it's like the 70s where it's like you just go there knowing that like they're gonna play something crazy tonight. And if you want to see something crazy, you go to the theater and see it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think there should be a
Yeah.
tier. I think there should be tiered pricing for independent and big budget movies too, because I'm like, this is a guy making indie movies, and it's like, yeah, like, would I like my movies to get $20 for a ticket or whatever? Like, sure, that'd be cool, like financially, but at the same time, like, it's not technically worth that. Like, and I understand if someone's upset, if like I paid $20 to see a Marvel level film, and it's like, well, this isn't that. Like, there should be a sliding scale. Like, there's a sliding scale for pricing in video games. Like, why not for movies? I think more independent movies would get out there and get seen, and also you'd respect it more because if you're like, oh yeah, I went to the theater for $5 and saw an indie movie, or it's like you make Indie Tuesdays, where they play a bunch of I don't know. I'm not the guy who's going to come up with this. That's above my pay grade, but I think there are answers out there to because some of the most interesting stuff happening, not even some of the most interesting things happening, are all in indie movies now. Like the big movies are pretty much like it's just a sequel or remake or video game, comic book, etc. So, but what I see happening with indie movie to actually answer your question and not get totally sidetracked is that think I think some of the AI things like I was talking about that do the grunt work is going to make indie movies start being able to like come to the plate more against the bigger movies. Like you're going to see some really cool voices be able to actually express themselves and show things in a way. And I'm not talking about generated content where it's like they typed in like make me a movie with a lizard and that happens. I mean like things where it's like do the green screen for me on this, like do like help me fix the sound on this, help me, like those sort of things that are like grunt work that one guy making the movie, they can actually get it up to a par that your average audience will accept it. Then I think like indie movies can break out and be something quite cool because then the indie people can actually have some of the same toys that the big budget movies have, and there won't be as much of the gatekeeping, hopefully.
Hopefully. And it's great to hear that like that's already coming true with that green cutting
Well,
out a
there's
character.
green screen stuff. There's stuff now that can help your audio, which is insane. Like, because we all know, like, as independent filmmakers, like, audio is it can be such a battle. But there's things where, like, you'll listen to something on playback and you're like, man, that's pretty unusable. And now there's some programs you can run it through. Like, wow, that sounds great. Sounds like we did it in the studio. Like, sometimes it doesn't work, but the times it does, you're like, holy crap, that's awesome. I mean, I don't have to try to, like, get this actor who we barely even got there on the day for to come back and do ADR. That's nice.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Okay, so The Waves of Madness is currently available at pretty much anywhere that someone would want to do transactional video on demand, meaning you can rent it for a few dollars. Um, is there anywhere else, social media, your website, that Facebook group you mentioned earlier, that you would like to direct people to?
Absolutely. Like oh God, I have so many. I have there's my Facebook, which I think it's like Facebook, like the JTro or something like that. JTro, my character from the FP. On Twitter, X, whatever it is, if that still exists, I'm the JTro on there. I'm on Blue Skies, Jason Trost. I'm on Instagram as Jason W. Trost. I'm on Threads, I think. I'm on YouTube again, just like Jason Trost. I also have, I just started a Reddit subreddit because I was like, why not? where it's just R Jason Trost. So you can find me. And then if you go on those, I have a link tree which goes to like JTro Presents. So if you're like, that's way too much information, just go to Linktree JTro Presents, and that has pretty much everything that I do, and I update that regularly.
Awesome. I will probably just include the link tree in the description then, rather than trying to hunt down all these other ones.
Yeah, it's wild, but this is what you have to do. Again, like if you're going to make your movie from the ground up, this is all the stuff you kind of have to do. You become your publicity team.
Yeah, it's true. The marketing is the hardest part of any project.
Yep.
So.
But you know, if you can accidentally build a community, it makes it easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on and talking with me about Waves of Madness, movie production, and Australia.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a blast. Like, it's just awesome to talk to a like-minded person. It's great.
Thank you.